Hello, everyone, and a very warm welcome to our webinar today, which is focused on the EU's MSCA Staff Exchange Programme, a call which under H2020 was formerly known as MSCA RISE. This call funds international and intersectoral exchanges of staff who are involved in research and innovation activities. My name is Jane Carrigan, and I'm one of two national contact points for the Marie Skłodowska-Curie Actions in Ireland. The Staff Exchanges Call is a consortium research grant open to different types of organisations. We're very pleased to have such a variety of organisations who registered for today's session, from those in universities and research organisations, from the private sector, and from charities and civil society. Thank you for joining us. Just to note, our webinar is being recorded, and we'll make the recording available afterwards to all those who registered, and we'll also upload it onto our website at iua.ie. We also have closed captioning available today, and you can alter the size of those captions by clicking on the CC button at the bottom of your screen. There will be a Q&A session after the presentations, so I invite you to please, if you have a question during the presentation, to post it into the Q&A function, and we will address as many of those as we can. And thanks so much to all of you who have already submitted questions when registering. Before I introduce the panel, I want to tell you a little about our organisation. So the Irish Marie Skłodowska-Curie Office is supported by the Irish Research Council, now part of Research Ireland, and jointly operated under a partnership agreement with the Irish Universities Association. Our mission in the office is to support the research community in Ireland across all disciplines and all sectors, both applying for MSCA funding and in implementing MSCA projects. And we try and do this in a number of ways, including promoting MSCA programs through information sessions, through workshops, through webinars like this one, and indeed providing more hands-on support, including pre-review of proposals being led or coordinated by organisations based in Ireland. My colleague, Dr. Yvonne Halpin, fellow national contact point and also national delegate, is also with us today. And if you have a question for the Irish Marie Skłodowska-Curie Office, either now or at a later stage, please feel free to contact us. And Yvonne will place our contact details in the chat function. Thank you, Yvonne. The Irish University Association also houses the Euraccess Ireland office, which provides practical support for researchers coming to Ireland and also the hosting organisations, and has links to research, jobs and career development opportunities. Euraccess Ireland also operates the Fast Track Immigration Hosting Agreement Scheme, allowing for employment of non-EEA MSCA fellows in Irish academia and industry. And should you wish to avail of Euraccess Ireland support, you can book a personalised virtual researcher information session with the Euraccess Ireland member of staff via the euraccess.ie website. So that brings us to our guest speakers for today. We are delighted to be joined by Alexandra Schultz-Sobczak of the European Research Executive Agency, who will present an overview of the Staff Exchanges 2024 call. And then following Alexandra's presentation, we will have a showcase of a successful Staff Exchange awardee from Ireland, indeed a multiple awardee, and we're delighted to have Professor Noel Fitzpatrick with us today. We'll begin with Alexandra. So Noel, Yvonne, you can turn off your cameras for now. And Alexandra, I'll invite you to share your screen and I'll introduce you, Alexandra, while you're getting set up. So Alexandra is a project advisor in the MSCA Staff Exchanges in the European Research Executive Agency, and she has been working with MSCA Staff Exchanges for several years. As part of her work, she supports and guides staff exchange projects from the Social Sciences and Economics panel, where her own academic background in business economics and social psychology is an added value. Alexandra, a warm welcome to you. We can see your slides appearing on the screen just now. Yep, I think we have full screen there.
Yes, I think it should work right now, right?
That's great. I can see everything. Yep, perfect. So over to you, Alexandra.
Thank you so very much, Jane, for this warm introduction. My name is Alexandra Schultz-Sobczak, and I am project advisor in the European Research Executive Agency. This agency is based in Brussels. And I have this honor today to present to you this excellent Staff Exchanges scheme. It's a very nice webinar because it's constructed with a little bit of theory, and you will have a very nice practical example after my presentation. So I'm sure that you will get some nice ideas, and you will be then more familiar with the scheme, and you will be really willing to look at it and apply to the call that is open right now. So just to begin, I will show you here the overview of this presentation that I prepared for you. So first of all, I will give you a very brief kind of information about the policy background. Then we will go to the core part of the presentation, which is staff exchanges. And then I will also tell you a little bit about the application process. Let's start with the policy background. So do you know what Horizon Europe is? I am curious if you know that. Well, the Horizon Europe is the biggest research and innovation program that is supporting scientists, and it runs from 2021 until 2027, and there is 23 billion euro involved in this program. And as you can see in this big slide, actually it looks quite heavy, but I will just explain you a little bit to guide you a little bit through this slide. So we identify 3 pillars. You have pillar 1, excellent science, pillar 2, global challenges and European industrial competitiveness, and pillar 3, innovative Europe. But we will concentrate on pillar 1. So it's also underlined here in green. We identify here the Marie Skłodowska-Curie actions is under this pillar, excellent science. And this is actually where we'll be today. The Marie Skłodowska-Curie Actions is a very nice family of nice schemes that support researchers, and not only. We have here in this family doctoral networks, postdoctoral fellowships, co-fund, Marie Skłodowska-Curie Actions and Citizens, and of course staff exchanges, and we will concentrate on that today. But however, if you are interested and curious about other schemes, of course you are very much welcome to get familiar with those schemes as well. I can imagine that there will be also separate sessions about this program, so you are also kindly invited to consult and to follow the sessions when they appear. Just very briefly, before I go to staff exchanges in more depth, so I would just like to tell you that Marie Skłodowska-Curie Actions are really a fantastic family that are there already since a really long time. I think they were established in 90s. And they are there to support researchers in their science, not only, but mainly researchers. And researchers can profit in many ways because they get reinforcement in trainings, they can develop their skills and competences, and their career can develop further. And it's for all career stages. And it provides also excellent opportunities for research. You may come up with an idea and you may apply with your idea in a specific panel. The actions are also very international, so there is a cross-sectorial component and they are interdisciplinary. These schemes also provide very attractive working and employment conditions, and they also definitely have a big impact on their organizations that are participating in these schemes. And of course, very important component is to bring research together with industry, to combine this both the private and academic sector, that they collaborate together. So now we have we aim to see the core of the presentation. It will be staff exchanges. And you may probably wonder, what is actually staff exchanges? And you can already deduct from the name of it what it is. So it's all about exchanging staff from among different entities, organizations, that are taking part in a project. And these entities can come from different sectors. They can be academic, they can be private, NGOs, even museums, even municipals, companies, small and medium enterprises. So everybody can actually contribute from this scheme. And what it is, it's a research and innovation mobility action that equips researchers, and not only, and organizations worldwide with advanced skills and cross-cutting knowledge. This scheme fosters mobility within different entities, as I mentioned, that they come both from academic or private sectors. And this scheme can also be combined with other programs. And the budget that is allocated for this call 2024 is more than 99 million euro. So it's a quite nice amount. And when we see actually the Staff Exchanges scheme, you may also ask yourself, yeah, but what are the benefits? So the benefits can be for two groups, for staff members and also for organizations. So when we think about staff members that are taking part in this scheme, Staff Exchanges, then they can gain very nice transferable skills and competences. They also win employability and career prospects. And of course, when they come with some ideas, they can, of course, be then converted into some products, processes, or services. Of course, the staff members will gain this external exposure. And then there is also a ground for them to build up networking and to communicate. When we think about organizations, it's actually quite similar. There will be, of course, this transfer of knowledge. There will be this collaboration between different entities, and of course, the staff that is working in these entities, and the research and innovation capacity will be boosted. So the key features of this nice scheme of the Staff Exchanges is, first of all, that it's a bottom-up approach. So you may come up with an idea and you may apply in different panel, depending on your field of the research. So we identify 8 panels, which is social sciences, economics, environment, mathematics, physics, chemistry, engineering, and life sciences. So you may choose, you know already in which domain you are working, and then you might select the panel and apply with your proposal. So here in this scheme, we finance the mobility. So the money goes to cover the mobility, and this is a top-up allowance. It's not a salary, it is something that it comes on top. And the money that is allocated to this kind of mobility is per one mobility 5,010 euro. And this amount is divided into 2 categories, which I will explain a little bit later. So the basic idea here is this exchange, which is a secondment. And this secondment can last not less than 1 month and up to 12 months altogether per staff during the whole duration of the project. And the duration of such a proposal, such a project later on, once this proposal is successful and gets grant, lasts 4 years, so 48 months. And normally, most of the projects run 4 years. There are some projects that they the duration of this project is 3 years, but normally there is a 4 years duration. And the allocation of this person months, the secondments that are happening within the project is not more than 360 per project. Otherwise, it will become a little bit too complex. So this is the defined amount of person months that it is kind of manageable. So you may ask yourself, yes, but who can participate? So I already identified, I told you already about the sectors. So we have academic sector and non-academic sector. It's very broad. So you may also wonder, there is no limit, basically. The entities should be then validated later on in order to participate in the project. I will also mention it later on. But the most important is to compose a consortium. So in order to do so, you need to have a minimum requirement fulfilled, which means that the consortium will be already eligible when it consists of minimum 3 legal entities that are from 3 different countries, and 2 of those countries should be in a different EU member state or Horizon Europe associated country. And if all organizations are in the same sector, there must be at least one organization that is coming from a so-called non-associated third country. And third country here, it means all countries that are not a member state of the European Union or not a Horizon Europe associated countries. They are coming outside of those of this group. Can be Japan, can be Canada, Kenya, all countries that are outside of the EU and the Horizon Europe associated countries. So who is eligible to participate? Any type of staff that is involved in research and innovation activities, and this means here researchers, administrative or managerial or technical staff. For example, that can be someone who is really specializing in building the databases. This person can, of course, also participate in a secondment if it's linked to the research and innovation activities, of course. Researchers can be at any stage of their career, coming from doctoral candidates to postdoctoral researchers. And the requirement also says that this researchers or the staff should be actively engaged already in the research activities for at least 1 month before they are sent to a secondment. And each staff can be seconded for at least 1 month, up to 12 months. And of course, this stay can be split into several periods. So don't worry, you don't have to think, oh, I have to go there for 12 months in one block. No, it's not like that. You should keep in mind that this stay can be split, so it will allow you to adapt this secondment with your personal and professional agenda. What I would advise you here already at this stage is that if you succeed and you will be thinking about secondments, try really to complete the first month quite soon, because of course you will also progress in your career. It may happen that you will maybe change a job, you will maybe like to go somewhere else. And then when the 1 month is not complete, this month unfortunately will not be reimbursed. So this is quite important to bear in mind. The staff that will be working during the secondment should be fully dedicated to this secondment, to this project. So you cannot work on something else during this time. So you cannot make part-time secondment. It will be a full dedication. And of course, once the secondment is finished, it's expected that you will come back to this organization that was sending you to this secondment. So in this graph, I don't know if it will show you, there are 2 scenarios. If you can identify the first line here on the right side, you can see that there are exchanges happening between 2 different sectors. And we are talking here about the European Union member states and associated countries to Horizon Europe. And here, in the first scenario, we have a very common kind of a scenario that the exchanges are happening between different sectors within this group of countries. The second scenario can be that we introduced it's different for those who are familiar with RISE as well. There was a novelty that was introduced in Staff Exchanges scheme. This novelty is actually saying that secondments can also take place within the same sector when we are within Europe and associated countries. But the rule is that 1/3 of the secondments can happen between 1/3 of the total of the secondments can happen in the same sector. So this is a requirement that should be followed. And here we have a scenario when we involve also countries that are outside of the European Union and outside of the associated countries that are associated with Horizon Europe. Of course, there are also other partners from other countries welcome to join. And there are actually 2 kind of type of participants, that there are countries that are coming from low and medium income, partners that are coming from low and medium income countries, and they will receive funds. And there are also countries that are coming from the partners that are coming from high income countries, and they will not receive funds. So they will have to come up with their funds to support secondments. Of course, they can participate, they can host people coming, for example, from Europe. But if they would like to second staff from their institutions or entities, then they have to cover it with their own funds. So what does Staff Exchanges fund? So we already said here that the exchange, so the secondment, the person that is moving from one institution to another, and the cost that covers this kind of exchange, this secondment, is 5,010 euro. And it's divided into two categories. So we identify category A, and this category is dedicated to the staff, and the staff will receive 2,710 euro. And this amount has to be fully paid to the staff. And this amount is supposed to cover the cost of traveling and accommodation, etc. There is also a possibility to apply for a special needs allowance if this is applicable. So for some researchers or staff that with some difficulties, there is also a possibility to ask. But whenever you already have a project and you will have your project officer, it's always good to contact the project officer and to ask for more details and more information about that if this is needed. And we have also category B, it's so-called institutional category. So the money will actually stay with the institution, but will support this secondment. So this will be then dedicated for the research and training and networking. And of course, part will also be able to cover this management and indirect cost. And here, of course, when we will discuss the money later on, it's a requirement that you will have to sign so-called consortium agreement and to agree on some modalities, also covering financial aspects. I can imagine that probably some of you are already familiar, some maybe less, and you will ask you a question, how do I find partners? But there are various ways, and this is open and it's up to you what is best for you. But I think the probably most common are here that points that I here mentioned. Like you will participate in some networking events like conferences and workshops, some other events that you will meet people and exchange with them. Probably you had already some collaborations, or you are already in some collaborations, you are running some projects together with some partners, so you can already think and talk with them and come up with an idea for a next project. There is also opportunity for you within some platforms, and one of them is Funding and Tender Opportunities portal. There is also a possibility to search for partners in this portal. There is also another platform that it's called Marie Skłodowska-Curie Action Matchmaking. So you can also try this platform to search for partners. And for partners that are maybe coming from the private sector, I would advise also to look at the European Enterprise Network. And of course, never forget that you have a great support with the National Contact Point, that they also have their possibilities and can advise you where to find partners and how to do it. So let's now see the application process a little bit. I think this is also quite important for you now as the call is open. So here are the important dates to bear in mind. The call has been opened already in September, on the 19th of September 2024, and it will close on the 5th of February next year. The budget that is allocated to this call is 99.47 million. And I would really like to warmly invite you to follow a session that we will organize on the 15th of November this year. It will be an info session regarding the staff exchanges. It will happen online, and you will also have a speaker that will also talk about practical part of running a successful project like we have today with Noel. And there will be also opportunity to ask questions. I thought that maybe it will help you also to provide you with the indicative timeline. So you may have an idea about the process and how you can plan your activities more or less, because you might be successful. I would like to mention also here already that the success rate is quite high because it's around 30%. Of course, it varies from call to call, but last year it was 30%, which is really excellent in comparison to other actions. In some other Marie Skłodowska-Curie actions, the success rate is around 13%. So you can see the difference already. And do your best, because it can happen that you prepare an excellent proposal. You probably will think that there is still a space to improve, but it can be that you succeed, that it will be already sufficient enough and you will succeed. So we already launched the call, as I said. The deadline to submit the proposal is 5th of February next year. And then there will be a period of the evaluation. So there are 2 stages. We will select experts according to the keywords. We will match the proposals with the experts that are covering a specific expertise, and they will evaluate the proposals. And around July, I think beginning of July, we will be then able to send notifications to all the applicants to give them the results of their applications. And once you succeed, the grants can be signed around November next year. And the project can actually already start, maybe even before November. If you manage to sign the contract even before November, the project can also start a little bit earlier. So this is just an indicative timeline to show you what is the process and how you can plan. So in order to apply, you have 2 ways. You can go either to the REA website, which I provided here in the slide for you. And if you go via this website, you will be guided, and there are some steps and explanations about the process provided. You can also see on the left side that there are different other Marie Skłodowska-Curie actions where you can also have a look and decide which scheme is the best for you. You can, of course, also go directly to the EU Funding and Tender Opportunities portal, where you will look for the specific call. And here I already indicated the staff exchanges, where you will find all the information and documents that are necessary. Also from this portal, you can already start your application. And here, what is important to mention, once you start the process, this process you can complete until the end of the opening of the call. So by the 5th of February, you should be able to complete it. So it means that once you start your application and you will continue, you will be always saved as a draft. So it will be easier for you to work on, and you can take your time and work on it with a time. What is important for the proposal? There are like 2 sets of information. We divide it into part A and part B. So in part A, you have structured data, and this is administrative data. It will cover like names, departments, institutions, addresses, all this part. And you have the part B, which is a narrative. So you will describe your action, your proposal in this document, and you will follow a specific template that will be provided to you. So you will just have to address all the points that is actually according to the template. The reference documents are as follows. So you will have guide for applicants, and these documents you will find also in the portal. They are also listed there. Marie Skłodowska-Curie Action Work Program and its annexes. You will have a proposal template. Of course, you have also the model grant agreement, where you can already consult what the grant agreement looks like, and you will see also the responsibilities which will come with that. You will have an online manual which will guide you on how to submit an application. And of course, there will be also a section on frequently asked questions. So it might be maybe obvious, but it's always good to provide you with maybe to underline some tips and tricks that can help you with the process. And I would like to list some of them here. I really advise you strongly that you will get familiar with how this funding scheme works. And by this, I mean that you get familiar with all the documents that are provided on the portal. It's very important to go through all these documents and that you get an idea and that you understand it. That you make sure that your organization can apply and the staff is eligible to take part in this scheme. Of course, make your mind and think who could be the most suitable partners, who you would like to have within the consortium that you will be working for another 4 years. Of course, it's not easy because it's kind of indicative and you cannot really kind of foresee what will happen after 4 years. But of course, you also can bear in mind that changes may happen. And if you have already a project, modifications are also possible, of course, with so-called amendments. So don't be afraid that if you will commit to something that it will last for this 4 years. It can be, of course, that some changes to the grant agreement will be necessary. This happens. This is a normal thing. But I advise you really to think wisely to find suitable partners that you will feel comfortable. And I was already talking about the consortium composition. I probably did not mention that an average consortium consists of around 10 to 15 partners. It can be less, of course, when it's according to the requirements, the minimum of 3 entities, as you saw in the slide before. And I have also a project with 29 partners, but you can imagine that this is really very challenging. And even it was confirmed by the coordinator that this is, however, the project is super interesting. It is indeed challenging to manage such a big consortium. So think also about that. That will help you later on. So start drafting your application carefully. And I really advise you strongly that you check this application while you are still drafting with someone who has maybe experience and already knows how it works and can advise you. And of course, you can also always contact the national contact point for that. And of course, do not wait to the last moment to submit your application. Don't wait until the 5th of February. Please save few days for submitting your application, because there can be some technical issue that will prevent you from sending on time, and then you will lose the opportunity. Yes, so I hope I brought it a bit closer to you. You will hear now a very nice practical part, which will give you a bit better idea. And at this moment, I would really like to wish you good luck, and I advise you really to be in contact with the national contact point. I wish you good luck with the application, and of course I am open also for the questions that will come later on. And at this stage, I would also like to say that this presentation will be shared with you. I also saved some notes for you, so then with more explanation and more details, so you can consult this presentation at the later stage. I also incorporated some links for you, so it can be quite easy to get to the specific information in some documents or in some portals. So I wish you good luck. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alexandra. That was really wonderful. It's it's so great to have such a comprehensive overview of the scheme, and particularly thank you for your generosity in making the PowerPoint slides and the notes available afterwards. It's very much appreciated. So we'll hold all questions until the panel session a little later, but just a reminder that you can continue to enter your questions into the Q&A function. So now, as Alexander says, we're going to move on to our case study, our practical example, and I have the pleasure of introducing Professor Noel Fitzpatrick. Noel, I can see you're starting to share your screen. It's great, so I'm just going to introduce you while you get set up there. So Professor Noel Fitzpatrick is Professor of Philosophy and Aesthetics and the Dean of GradCam at the Technological University, Dublin. Professor Fitzpatrick has been involved in interdisciplinary research at the intersection of art, science and technology. He's the academic lead on the European Culture and Technology Lab of the European University of Technology based at TU Dublin. And Professor Fitzpatrick also acts as evaluator on Horizon Europe programmes and the MSCA. He has a successful track record in research funding, including Erasmus+, SFI and IRC, and in particular the MSCA Staff Exchanges call. He was coordinator of Staff Exchange project Real Smart Cities, which ran from 2017 to 2022, and is the lead principal investigator on the Staff Exchange project Networking Ecologically Smart Territories, or NEST for short, which started in 2021, and also on EpiSteam, which was funded under the Horizon Europe Staff Exchanges call. And we're going to hear more about EpiSteam today. So welcome, Noel. Delighted to have you with us and to hear your insights, and over to you.
Okay, thanks very much, Jane. I'd like to in particular thank Jane and Yvonne, because they've actually helped me over the last number of years with these schemes and these projects, and it's, you know, thanks to them too that these projects have been so successful. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the project we have at the moment, which is called EpiSteam. You know, the title is Epistemology in Science, Technology, Arts, Engineering and Maths. And it comes out of work that we're doing across philosophy of technology. So let's see if I can move on. Okay, so just to talk a little bit about the background to the project. So as Jane said, I do have previous experience in MSCA RISE, and then it became Staff Exchange. But in particular, I think what's of interest to an Irish context is the relationship to the European university initiatives and alliances. So this particular project comes out of a network of universities which are within the European University of Technology. And I think Ireland is exceptional at the moment because each one of the higher education institutes in Ireland are actually members of European alliances. So this is perhaps something that people could think about how their alliances could be used for this type of project. And secondly, the area that I'm particularly interested in is coming out of a research laboratory, which is a pan-European research laboratory within that European University of Technology, which is called the European Culture and Technology Laboratory. And that's looking at the relationship between technology and culture, seeing that technology is something that takes place within the culture and not separate to a culture. And we also, within that laboratory at the moment, we have a number of strategic partnership initiatives which are funded through Erasmus. So we have Ethico, which is looking at ethics, then we've one looking at aesthetics, and we've one looking at epistemology. But I suppose the excellence of the idea of this particular network comes from the Digital Studies Network, which is a philosophical network that was set up in 2012 in the Pompidou Center in Paris with a particular French philosopher, Bernard Stiegler, who's one of the leading lights in philosophy of technology at the moment. And one of the things that digital studies looks at is the impact of digital technologies. So the impact of digital technologies on epistemology, so how knowledge is constructed and how knowledge is impacted by digital technologies. And here we could think of things like AI is in the background to that. Then we have questions of aesthetics, so cultural production, how do digital technologies impact on cultural production? And the final area is one of ethics. So how do digital technologies impact questions of ethics? So that's a little bit the kind of research background to the Episteme project. And the final one, which is one we're working on at the moment, is questions of ontology. So the ontological status of digital objects is something that we're working on as well. So this is the consortium. So I'd just like to thank Alexandra, because Alexandra is actually the project officer on this project with me. And we have here a kind of a visualization of what that consortium looks like. So as Alexander said a moment ago, we do have a partnership within Europe. So that's what I said is coming through the European University Alliance. So we have HDA in Germany, we have University of Cartagena, we have Limassol, we have the Cyprus University of Technology, we have Cluj in Romania, and we have Latvia. So that's the partnership which is actually within the European University Alliance. And then we have additional partners. We have a partner in the US, which is in Seattle. So it's a Washington DX is the group that we're working with there. They're a kind of new media group in Washington University. Then we have a group in India, which is in fact a group which are looking at the rollout of particular technologies within archaeology. And then there's one partner which is not on that slide, which is Bolton, which is a well-known experimental science or technology group in Eindhoven. So it's the old Philips factory in Eindhoven, which is now used as a center for artistic activities. So one of the things that I'd say about the consortium is that we have private companies. So in Cartagena, we have a private company called Instead, who are focused on the use of nanotechnology in neurology. So it's things like brain implants for Parkinsonian disease. And then we have another private partner in Germany, which is called GSI. GSI is actually the Proton Accelerator Group. So this would be the European equivalent to CERN, where they're building a 12-kilometer proton accelerator group. So if you can see there, what we're doing is we're looking at questions of epistemology which go from nanotech to large-scale experiments. GSI is an extraordinary place because it's a huge experimental network for physics, and we're involved in looking at questions of digital technology with them. So that's the consortium. Then here you can see a little bit what Alexandra was saying a moment ago. And this is a kind of a welcome change, I would say, in the Marie Curie RISE staff exchanges, is the ability to have interdisciplinary secondments. So we can have secondments which are between academic partners if they are interdisciplinary. And the way that we consider that is basically the relationship between arts, humanities, and then what we call the natural sciences and engineering. We would see that as the interface. Then we have our non-academic partners, so they're kind of small. One of them is a small private company. The other is a quite large private company in Germany. So they're the two non-academic partners. And then we have our associated country and our third country. So as you can see, we have kind of used the consortium to have that interdisciplinary, international, intersectorial basis. And as Alexandra said, one of the things that we have come up with is how that partnership works is that what we do is each one of the academic partners really recommends somebody who's a non-academic partner. So we're trying to work with people that we know already. And and it's also kind of building the network of expertise around the academic partners. So the way we work is we ask each one of the academic partners to recommend maybe a non-academic partner, and then we try and work with that person. Okay. So these are the work packages. It's broken down into 4 leading academic work packages, and then we could see 3 work packages which are management, knowledge transfer, and communication. So the first work package is on digital studies and epistemology, and that's being led here in TU Dublin. That's really looking at questions of annotation, new forms of interaction with digital technologies to see how we can impact the questions of knowledge construction. The second work package is being led by our colleagues in Cluj, and that's on digital perception and built reality. So that focuses really on questions of maybe what we could consider to be the urban built environment and architecture. The third work package, which is on sensing the body, that's being led by our colleagues in Cartagena, and that's really the one which is looking at the relationship between nanotech and the body. And the fourth work package is looking at questions of techne and the experiment, and that's with our colleagues in Cyprus. And then we have kind of the traditional management work package, knowledge transfer and training, and communication and dissemination. So the 4 academic work packages kind of really drive the academic content of the project. So these are just the deliverables. So what we've tried to do over time is to make sure that the deliverables are kind of linking into events, sometimes which are happening every 6 months. So we try and have some type of consortium event where physically we get together every 6 months. And in between times, we can have seminars and things which are run in a hybrid format. So what you'll see there is that some of the outputs of the project itself are linked to the European Culture and Technology Laboratory. So next week, actually, we're going to be in Cluj, Napoca, in Transylvania for the week where we have our ECT Lab Digital Hermeneutics Conference, which is taking place there. And we're bringing in keynotes from the University of Paris and from Berkeley in California are coming in for that. So besides the deliverables themselves, we have these networking events. And as Alexandra said, this is a way that we try to come together through these events. And in our case, some of these events are linked to exhibition making also. So in Bolton next year, we will have an exhibition in September. Next week in Cluj, we'll have 4 or 5 artistic interventions during the conference. So what we try and do is have the deliverables, which are the artistic outputs of the project taking place with the academic conferences. They're not separate to them. So I suppose some of the challenges. One of the things that we've learned over time is that secondment planning can be quite complex. I don't want to say something banal like life is complex, but people have lives and things can happen. So as we set out with the plan for the project, what can happen over time is that secondment planning is constantly being revisited. In particular, when we have senior researchers who are planned to go on long-term secondments, that can pose problems for the institution itself. How do we backfill teaching hours? How do we ensure that the senior researcher has time to do that long secondment? So that's something that we've kind of come up with over time, how to deal with that. But what I would say is that what we tend to do is we have a monthly meeting It's actually next week. We have a monthly meeting where the secondment planning is constantly being discussed with all of the partners. So what we try and do is, as the secondment planning is changing and shifting, that over time we're constantly managing this together, so there's no surprises, basically. And then in terms of the smaller partners, sometimes it can be difficult if they're receiving a lot of secondments. So what we try and do is kind of plan that with the smaller partners. So suddenly you don't have 5 or 6 researchers arriving to a small company, which is kind of, for them, that's can be very difficult to manage. And then for the smaller partners, one of the problems can be long-term or going on secondment. So with private companies in particular, if you're asking somebody to go on a month-long secondment, what we need to do is help them in one way prepare that secondment too. And the other thing that we've learned over time is to have really clear protocols on hosting of secondments. So, if somebody arrives here in TU Dublin, that they have access cards, that they can get to the library, that they immediately are up and running, if you see what I mean. So we have put in place a mechanism around that. So each secondment goes through a kind of process where the proposal is considered by the hosting and the sending organization. So we actually try and do this on a case-by-case basis. So each one of the secondment proposals is considered by the consortium, then it's agreed on, and then the hosting can take place. The other challenge sometimes can be the financial planning. So this needs to be kind of carefully considered. So if you imagine that we have, whatever, 160 secondments planned in the project, and we can see that early on in the project, there can be some delays or things which are being cancelled, etc. What we try and do is kind of manage that in terms of the overall finances too. Okay. And then just one point is on, this is not really a kind of criticism of the MCA in Brussels. This can also be things which are within the local institutions. So grant amendments can be time consuming. It can take a lot of time within the institution itself to get the grant agreement agreed. So there is a kind of an administrative burden with that, but that's part of it. Then I suppose just the opportunities, as we have a kind of an internationalization of research which takes place. And I think for us, that's key. So our PhD students get experience of living and working in other academic institutions or private companies in Europe. They also are given the opportunity to go to the US, to Seattle, and in our case with China. So this is like a sectorial research piece. So each person who goes on secondment gets the opportunity to have that international experience. And then also there is the ability to have interdisciplinary research. So as I said, our private companies are Instead, GSI and Bolton. So each one of those secondments gets experience of interdisciplinary research with private companies. And then I would say one of the key opportunities is for the institution itself is in terms of the research outputs. My experience of these projects has been that the quality of the research outputs is really high. So we have conferences, papers, journals, book chapters. We've also had a series of books published. We have exhibitions, we have performances. So each aspect of the project actually is generating constantly these collaborative research outputs. So I think that's all I have for today. I'm happy to take any questions. So thank you very much.
Great. Thanks so much, Noel. That was a really amazing account, and it's great to see all the details about Episteme there. So thank you for sharing your experiences. I'd like to welcome both our panel members to join me for the Q&A. We've had a very engaged audience with us, which is super. And thanks also to those who've submitted questions at registration. So I'm going to get through a couple of them as well. And if there's any additional questions, please feel free to add it at the bottom of your screen. Noel, I might start with you first. I really loved that slide you had in your presentation where you had all the entities and where the secondments that were planned, so where they were coming from, the non-academic sector, the academic sector, the third countries. And I'm wondering, and you mentioned in your presentation your preferred method of securing a non-academic partner was through the academic partner and see if they could recommend someone. But I wonder, could you talk a little bit to us about how did you manage to convince non-academic partners to become part of your consortium?
Okay, so I think a good example would be Bolton in Eindhoven. So Bolton is like it's a very well known platform in terms of experimental art and technology. They've done some really, really fantastic work over the years. And when we met with them, and it's actually through a colleague here in Dublin and a colleague in Cyprus had worked with them previously. But what we met with them, I suppose the pitch that we made was that we would kind of try and align our activity with what they're doing already. That's the first thing. And secondly, that it will be an opportunity for them to kind of come up to speed with this particular area of research around the impact of digital technologies. So I think there's an intellectual aspect to it that really intrigued them, but also it's also a way of having an exhibition built out. So one of the things that we do is with Washington and Eindhoven, what we try and do is get them to host a major event within the project. So what we're doing, in fact, is we're all working together on the thematic, and then we're enabling them to host an event with us. So that's kind of, for them, it's like a win-win. They're getting intellectual input, but they're also getting a way to platform the artistic exhibitions and performances together. The other one was the GSI group is also quite interesting. So it's hard to explain the scale of that project. You know, it's like a 12-kilometer proton accelerator that they're building. And one of the things that they were looking at is they were looking at the artistic residency program within CERN. So CERN in Switzerland has a very well-known international residency program for artists. GSI don't have that at the moment. So one of the things that they want us to do, and we're still doing it with them, is actually helping them prepare that type of residency program within basically a nanotech proton accelerator group. So, you know, we gave examples. So we had previously GradCam had worked with the University of Gothenburg in Sweden, where we had also done this type of dance performance in a nanotech lab. So we were able to give them an example of something that we've done previously or collaborated with previously. So that's how we got them on board.
Great. Thanks for that.
Yeah, sure.
And it's not always easy sometimes because we speak different languages sometimes in academia and non-academia, so it's good to have those practical examples of how you manage to get people on board. Alexandra, I might turn to you for the next question. So some questions have come in really about the nuts and bolts, if you like, of the scheme. But one question was about, can staff on EU-funded salaries participate in an MSCA Staff Exchange? And the person gave the example of the Horizon Europe Research and Innovation Action, for example.
Thanks a lot, Jane. Well, it really depends. I cannot really answer straight away this question, but it will always depends on what the other program is about, what are the requirements of the other program. So we will need to look deeper into that. I'm not familiar with the other programs, so I cannot really answer straight away. But it's good to check exactly what are the requirements and what this program it really covers. If there is a full dedication on the program, then probably we will have to analyze deeper which tasks or activities are covered. Of course, it is possible. I don't say that it's not possible. It is possible, but we need to look deeper into the specificity of these programs to see if they can complement each other somehow. So we can, I already mentioned, to generate the so-called synergy. We are actually already, I can say here, under discussions how to make the combination of different programs that it can be even more beneficial and will create even bigger impact. There are some talks already ongoing, but I can only answer for now. It really depends on the program. Thank you.
Okay, so it's not a straight out no, I suppose. It might be a little bit more complex than that.
Exactly.
Yeah, and Alexandra, sticking with you, are there any restrictions on resubmissions for the staff exchange? I think this is coming from a an audience member who might be more familiar with the MSCA Doctoral Networks and Postdoctoral Fellowships call, in which you have to score above a certain level, and if you don't, you're prevented from submitting the following year. We might have good news on this front, I think, about staff exchanges.
Yes, indeed, Jane. So yes, of course, projects can reapply. So there is no restrictions, and there is so if you are not successful in 1 year, of course, you are welcome to take into account the comments that you will receive from the experts while they are evaluating, because normally they always provide comments on what was good and what is actually there to be improved. And if with this comments, with the evaluation of the experts, you will not succeed, you have a great chance to look at the comments, take them seriously into account, and reapply next year. You will not be punished that you are reapplying. So we will not look back, because the next evaluation will be taken as this evaluation will only be valid. So we will not look, you applied already last time, so you will not be considered, or you have less chances. You have exactly the same chances or any other applicants in this call. And it can happen that you will improve your application, but maybe there will probably be another composition of experts, and they will maybe find something else. With the resubmission is also like that even if you change something, you will come with maybe a little bit different composition of your consortium. So it will already be another proposal, actually, because you will have some other components there. So I strongly encourage you, even if you failed 1 year, please take into account the comments seriously, improve your application, and apply again. It happens. I have several projects that were successful second or third time, and they were actually a success story at the end, because they had a great consortium, they understood the rules well, and they really worked seriously and hard on the proposal or on the project later on the implementation, and the project could still be very successful. So don't be discouraged by the fact that you failed maybe 1 year.
Thank you, Alexandra, and that's encouraging news. And as you mentioned in your presentation, very healthy success rates for the staff exchanges call. Alexandra, we had a question in about third countries. What is a third country, and what about countries like Canada and New Zealand who may have signed up for parts of Horizon Europe, and how are they affected by staff exchanges? I wonder, can I give that one to you?
Yes. It's true that I mentioned already that there are third countries, but maybe the name is not really the best to describe that, but it means all the countries I said who are not member states or not associated to Horizon Europe, and all of them can participate, of course, and also New Zealand and also Canada. I know that there is something ongoing with Canada right now. I'm not, actually, I cannot tell you at which stage we are now with Canada. But then once there will be an agreement signed, then of course there will be a little bit, there will be different rules for participation. But with New Zealand, I don't know. To be honest, I cannot tell you this right now, what will happen. But once there is an association agreement to Horizon Europe, like we have, for example, with Turkey or some other countries that are participating, Ukraine, for example, then of course these countries will then get funds in order to second their staff. If you do not participate in such agreements, and you are like in the US maybe, or Japan, or there is a number of countries and partners are coming for these high income countries, then of course you need to make a kind of a plan and think about funds that will support secondments in case you would like to send from those countries someone to let's say Europe. Then you need to have already a plan.
Yeah. And I would add, people are free to contact their national contact point if they're unsure about the status of a third country and where it stands currently. And we know the Research Executive Agency has announced some new schemes with countries that are funding applicants to avail of staff exchange funding. So India and Brazil as well. So do contact us if you want to follow up, and we might be able to help clarify that. And Noel, I'm looking at the time. I don't know where the time has gone now, but Noel, I'll come back to you for a question that came in from an audience member who is worried about that what you call about backfill, really, about if you're going on to comment, who is responsible then for filling your position? And I wonder, from your point of view as principal investigator, I suppose that is the dilemma. People who go on to comment have to be in a position to do so, and the institution has to be able to cover it.
So I'd say there's two categories within that. First of all, it's like, you know, if we have postdocs and PhD students, that tends to be easier to manage. So when we look at Episteme at the moment, what you'll see is there's a number of PhD students who are now going on secondment for TU Dublin, for example. And then what we try and do is we'll have, Alexandra mentioned the possibility of split secondments. So what we do with senior members of staff is that if they wish to take part in one of these projects, what we do is kind of plan a split secondment with them. The only downside of that is that's why I said there's kind of a bit of financial planning involved. We need to manage the cost of that because, you know, if you're getting multiple flights, that brings up the cost of that split secondment. And the other possibility, just to help that, is what we try and do in the consortium agreement is kind of come up with a mechanism where we're allowed to top up that again if needed. So, you know, if you think of Ireland at the moment, Ireland is particularly expensive. So when people come here, sometimes that's the initial top-up allowance may not cover all of the cost. And what we do in the consortium agreement is we agree that if needs be, we can top that up again. So, and I can see that the actual amount has gone up substantially actually over the last 2 years. So the top-up allowance has increased, so that might be less of a problem. So in terms of senior staff, we plan it as a split secondment. That's what we do.
Great, thanks for that. And Alexander, I'm conscious of time, but final question I might give to you about how detailed do people have to be? How specific do they have to be about the secondments being planned in the proposal itself? Do they have to give names? Do they have to give the duration?
Normally, if you already start preparing a proposal, you may have already an idea what you are going to do, and you have to develop a plan. So like which is supported with work packages. I think it was a very nice visible in Noel's presentation. So you already know what your research will be about for the next 4 years, and you have to already have kind of an idea what you want to achieve and with whom you will collaborate and where you will establish these exchanges. What will be the best match in order to achieve these objectives that you have in each respective work package. So it can really vary. It's flexible and it really varies, and it depends on how you will design your proposal. And probably in one work package, scientific work package, you will probably like to develop specific tasks, and then you will think, okay, this partner will be responsible for this part, this one for that part, and then according to that you will plan, okay, for this specific task I will need maybe 2 persons that will go from this organization to the other organization and work on something specific, and some other combinations. And of course, then you will have to more or less have an idea who will perform this and which profile is the most suitable, which expertise, the length, of course, you will plan. So you already have, you should already have an idea, not that you will think, maybe somebody, we will find somebody, but maybe you will not find. So you should already have an idea who in your organization could be suitable and could be interested. And of course, you will probably not be able to plan it for the entire project. Of course not, it's a long period, but within the project, it will also evolve and there will be some new elements coming, and it is kind of flexible. So you can still incorporate some elements and maybe add people also to the project. Some people could be interested in the organization or can be even joining the organization later and still can participate in this exchange program.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Alexander. I suppose that's a good note to end on, that it is flexible. And I've seen plenty of successful proposals that have PhD 1 or postdoc 1 listed in the secondments. And also there's a compulsory table in the application form that details the number of, I suppose, secondment months or person months really for each entity. And beyond that, as Alexander says, there is definitely flexibility. So I'd like to draw an end to our webinar today. Thank you so much for everyone for joining us. I hope you found it informative and useful. I'd especially like to thank my excellent panel members for giving their time today and sharing their knowledge and their experiences. I very much appreciate it. A recording of today's webinar will be made available, and you can find further information on the MSCA Staff Exchange action on the EU Funding and Tenders portal and on our own web pages on iua.ie. You can also find access to our previous webinars and case studies on our resources and training webpage, and we'll include the link in the chat there too. And our resources and training webpage also has links to the MSCA Net handbooks, which are produced with our national contact point colleagues in Europe, and which myself and Yvonne contribute to. And this is really an excellent resource for applicants, full of tips and advice. The 2024 version Staff Exchange Handbook will be published very early December, if not before, but the 2023 version is available in the meantime. And finally, please do contact our office if you have any further questions, or if I didn't get a chance to get to your question today. And just a reminder that the Commission will be holding their own Staff Exchange Information Day on 15th of November, as Alexander says, which is always an excellent day. And it's from 10 to 12:30 Central European Time. And it's possible to pose questions in advance there too. So that's it from us for the 2024 Staff Exchange webinar. I wish you all a very pleasant day and the very best of luck to all applicants. So goodbye for now.
Goodbye and good luck. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.